Bon dia, good afternoon again, everybody. Cris, Paige, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. So we're talking about changing the fight game. So I guess we should take it all the way back. What got you into MMA in the very first place? Why MMA?
First, I want to say good afternoon for everyone. Boa tarde para todos. Dizer que é prazer estar aqui. Do you know, before I play another different sports like handball, soccer, and when I was 19 years old, somebody may watch me playing handball and say, I think you can be a great fighter. And I started fighting MMA. It changed the game.
My dad was actually the one who got me into MMA first. I was a professional dancer, and then he asked me to come try a class with him. He was a wrestler, and the rest is history. I absolutely fell in love with it and made it a career.
Nice.
You've sort of seen the evolution of the sport firsthand and been part of that. What are the things that have stood out the most for you in terms of the changes that have happened in, say, well, the last decade, for instance, in MMA?
Yeah, I think the biggest changes in the last decade for MMA is the growth of women in the sport, especially in the UFC. You know, we started fighting. You know, I looked up to Cris Cyborg. She was a legend and a trail runner. And then even when I started fighting, women were not allowed in the UFC. And now we're kind of taking over. And the whole fight world is becoming much, much more popular. And I think the evolution of women fighting is, you know, definitely has helped that.
The beginning of my career, I trained most for a lot of guys, and the one thing I wasn't show, like the girls can fight like a man because they can show techniques, they can do the best show for the fans. And I think the girls doing this, and when they give an opportunity for us, we try to do the best we can. And then now the women's MMA growing a lot.
So, I mean, let's look. I mean, Cris, you've gone through Strikeforce, Invicta, UFC, now Bellator. Do you want to give people a bit of context for that, the last part of the move, and sort of your side of things in terms of the move to Bellator?
You know, every event I went, I think it's one chapter in my career. You know, I learned a lot from Strikeforce, Elite FC, and UFC. Now I signed with Bellator. You know, I think I have a lot of girls in my division, 145, and I think is that I'm gonna fight in January, and you're gonna have the opportunity to fight for the fourth time world title in the different organization. You know, I'm really happy. I think it's the women's MMA growing, and I have the opportunity for open the door for another girls too.
What was the biggest attraction of Bellator aside from that?
What?
What was the biggest attraction, the most attractive part of moving to Bellator for you?
For me, I have the opportunity to have another girls in my division. You know, that the struggle I have all my career is find the girls in my division. I always fight some girls 135er. I try to make 135 too. And to have a girls in my division, I think it's better because I'm gonna fight the girls my size, and you know, it's my division.
And do you look favorably back on your time with the UFC?
You know, I talked to Scott before I signed with Bellator. I say, you know, I still have the dream of having my rematch with Amanda Nunes. And I told him, maybe you can have the opportunity like Bellator. He opened the opportunity to fight in the event Reason. And then I say, maybe we can make a UFC champion. And if he'll be Bellator champion, we can fight each other again. And Scott say, okay, I mean, you know, just Dana White have to make the call. One fight deal.
And for you, Paige, your sort of current position with UFC is you've got one fight left on your contract, is that right? Is there sort of any sign or light at the end of the tunnel in terms of who that opponent might be or when you might get a chance to fight next?
Yeah, I've told the UFC I was cleared to fight. I went through some extensive arm injuries. I've had surgery 3 times on my arm, but I won my last fight in January, and this is going to be the last fight on my current UFC contract, and I think it's really exciting. It's going to open the doors for me to hear other, you know, it's more about knowing your value, and I think it's going to be awesome for me to be able to see now that women's MMA is so popular in these other organizations, to know what your value is and open those doors. So I'm excited to, you know, fight one more time and see what opportunities come from it.
I was going to say, I mean, you sort of feel like you're in a position of strength in that way at the moment, and would you consider the free agency option and potentially what you could sort of look for new doors to be opened?
Yes, I definitely am considering free agency. After this fight, it's already kind of been decided I want to test free agency and see what, what comes in. All the power right now is in the UFC's hands when you're under contract. Once you're a free agent, it puts the power in your hand to say, like, okay, this is my value. This is what people see my worth as and what I bring to the table. And you can't ever know that until you're a free agent. Yes. And, that's something Cris did. She was able to become a free agent and see her value. And I think it's awesome that people are following in her footsteps. And it's something I admire. And I'm really excited to see what happens.
What do you think it says about UFC to potentially lose two of its biggest stars, the biggest female fight stars on the planet? Where do you sort of see it in terms of the motion at the moment?
I don't get it.
One more time.
Sorry, I was going to say, does it sort of cast UFC in a slightly disappointing light to be able to lose possibly two of its biggest stars?
Of course, I definitely see the UFC losing Cris is a huge fault. She's not only a legend in the sport, but one of the very, very best and known as the most dangerous woman in the world. So it's really exciting to see her competing in Bellator and continuing to fight in her career. We don't know what my future holds. Of course, for testing free agency, I have no ill will or reason to leave the UFC other than just knowing my value and seeing who values me the highest. And that's just kind of what I plan to do.
I think the first thing you have to work happy, and you have to work somebody who are going to be partner. Like a fight, you're going to work together the event, because the fighters make the event happen, and then the fans make the fighters. And then if you work together and be happy, I think you're going to be success. And good luck for you.
Yes, thank you.
Looking for good opportunities.
What have been, would you say, that the biggest challenges for being female athletes within MMA over the years? Do you think the scene is getting slightly easier or fairer treatment, or do you think there's still quite a bit of an inequality going on?
I definitely see there's still inequalities. That's something I spoke out about already, is the the unequal pay for women in MMA, and that's the reason I am openly talking about testing free agency. I'm unhappy with where my value is right now. That's comparing myself to other stars in the division. If I compare myself to the other men in the sport, where my value is right now, I'm not happy with. And I think it's going to take women like us speaking out and testing the free agency market and really saying, we're fighting for what we do. We bleed for this, and we deserve to be compensated for it.
I think you'll have a lot of fights. I don't think so much different between girls and men in the MMA. Have some different, but not too much. And I think when you have the opportunity for see your value, get out the event and try see the opportunity, I think good. I think if you can do that, I think you have to do that and make better deal for you,
Talking about sort of changing the game again, do you feel more pressure in terms of and a responsibility for sort of being a very prominent female role model for young female fans and, well, just fans in general?
Yeah, I definitely want to continue to be a role model for women. I want to, share women's empowerment and women's strength is so big right now. And I think, speaking up is where that comes from, is it takes people in positions like we are to speak up and say, hey, we're undervalued and we need to, know what our value is and really put their foot down. And I think it's important, and continuing to shed positive light to how powerful women are and how it's a really positive thing.
The one thing I like to share with my fans, everybody have struggles every day. And then, I'm fighting because I'm fighting the cage, but everybody here is fighting the life. You fight for your goal, you fight for your dream. And then I try to show my fans you can do that. You just have to believe in your dreams and fight for. And then when I step in the cage, I try to show them too. They can get what the dream they have. And this is the main thing I like to show my fans. They can do it if you believe and you work hard, you're going to get it.
How important for you both is social media these days? I mean, obviously that's a key sort of changing facet within the wider landscape. But for yourselves in a sport where promotion is sort of very key and for both your brands as well in that way, how important do you both see it?
Yeah, social media is huge, especially because, we live in an entertainment industry. At the end of the day, yes, we're fighters, but people watch us because it's entertaining. And we have to build a brand outside of just being a fighter. And that's how you have to be able to build your brand, get a fan base, get people to resonate with who you are as a person to ultimately build yourself up. And social media has been amazing. It's a great platform that I use. And then also knowing, then you can show your insight, being able to use those tools to show your insight, to know how many people are purchasing what you're selling. And it's an amazing world that we live in, that we can use that in now contract negotiations with the companies that we fight for.
Yes. You know, I started working, I see like we did one search about my fans, and then I know then watch a lot of videos, you know, and then my team, we start doing a lot of videos, Cyber Nation videos, we put to YouTube. It's nice to fans know a little bit more about you, not just inside cage. They can see, I always do fight before my fights, and then the people can see what's the fight week look like for the fighter, and you show a little bit about normal life too. You know, it's same people here, you know, it's the same. We just have different job, but we have same life, family, have to work different ways, and it's nice. The fans can show a little bit this.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Paige, we've seen you on Dancing with the Stars and Chopped in the States. Are these the kind of things that you're sort of happy to, or potentially look down different avenues sort of later in your career, or sort of almost diversifying in a way?
Yeah, you know, actually, I pretty much take any opportunity that, one, interests me, and then two, adds value to myself and my career. It is about building a brand, and being on Dancing with the Stars, I was on Chopped, I've done different TV shows here and there. They're all things that I'm extremely passionate about, and fortunately enough, I have an amazing team that can balance my entire schedule, where I can be extremely competitive in the fight game and also explore all these opportunities at the same time. And I want to continue to open doors and do these opportunities while I continue my fight career.
And for you, Cris, as well, in terms of sort of away from sport, is there anything else that sort of particularly sort of...
You know, I started one camp, the name Pink Belt Fitness. I started working for girls. We stay like 3 days together, 2 days together. We learn about self-defense. We share a lot of experience between, you know, only the girls, and I think it show a little bit about my work and then my testimony too, you know, empower them for, you know, going through what then happened in their lives. I think this is the goal. And I do missionary work too. I went to South Africa, I went to Uganda, and I like to share, you know, if I'm blessed, I like to share the blessing with the people follow me.
Is there anything you, sort of your current self could have gone back and told your sort of former self earlier in your career? If there's one sort of lesson you'd like to be able to tell yourself, is there anything particularly that stands out?
Gosh, I mean, even outside of fighting, I would say just say yes to more opportunities. You never know what it's going to lead to. And those are the things you look back, and the things that I've said yes to are become the most monumentous things in my life. Of course, saying yes to going and training with my dad has started my whole MMA career, and saying yes to being on Dancing with the Stars has opened more and more and more doors. So, you know, just to take each opportunity that comes your way and really value it and put, you know, 100% effort forward.
I think everything in your life happened for a reason. Before I'm doing a WMMA fight, I played a lot of sports before, and I was 19 years old, I started doing MMA, and I know all the sport I did before prepared me for me to be a good fighter. And I think because everything happened, I try to see the good thing, good side. Sometimes it's bad situation, but if you see the good side, why you have to learn from that. I think you be different person, you're getting better, be better person, you know, better athlete. I think you have to for help you.
We've seen quite a few members or competitors from MMA move over to the likes of WWE and things like that. Is that something that would ever interest either of you?
Of course. I mean, it's definitely, the WWE is an amazing sport. I mean, professional wrestling, you have to be extremely athletic. It's an entertainment industry in the same right. It's definitely different than fighting. Yeah. But it's an amazing organization, of course. It's something that we obviously would be very good at. It takes the same talent, the same skill, the same athleticism. So if the door comes knocking, it's definitely something that I would never say no to.
Acting. I think you're going to be cool. You have to learn a lot. And I have the opportunity to do some training too. It's good. It's a good opportunity for show defense.
I mean, you see how much the sport has evolved in, say, the last decade. Can you even sort of contemplate where it might be in 10 years' time?
Gosh, in 10 years, you know, I think we're gonna continue to see women evolving in the sport. Yes. We see the younger kids rising to the occasion. As you see champions grow, you see the younger generation just getting better and better and better. I think you'll see the coaches getting better, the athletes getting better. As just more awareness comes to the sport, you're gonna see more talent coming through.
I think 10 years are gonna be great for the fighters. I think you're gonna have a union. You know, they're going to be together and the fight for then equals right for everyone. I think, and then I'm going to see that, they're going to see how you put seed and the plan to make the difference, you know, in the fight, world fight MMA. And then I want to have a family, but I want to continue to work in MMA and help the young kids be a good fighter too.
Is it fair to say that equal rights is the biggest single issue facing MMA right now?
I think there's a variety of issues. I think that's definitely one of them. I think a little bit more awareness of the sport. MMA is still illegal in a lot of countries. Yes. So just so they know, I feel like the reason for that is people believe it's just this barbaric sport. It's just pure violence. And I think it's going to take people like us and more women in general just to share like it's something we choose to do, and we choose to do it because we love it. And we're both very talented at other things, but we choose to fight because it's something we love to do, and it's a passion, and it's an art, and it's a skill. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is just making more people aware of MMA and how amazing it is.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's the same thing. When I started fighting, my mom don't agree. You see now it's huge, big. Now she can watch and know it's a sport, but they have a lot of places people don't know too much, but some place, but we're still getting very big.
And so what does 2020 hold for you, Cris? Coming up, you've got a fight in January, is that right?
January 25th, I'm going to be in my first fight in Bellator. I'm going to be in LA at the Forum. And I'm very happy and very excited to fight fighting and get that belt. And to be the only woman have the 4 different titles belt, different organization. And I'm very excited, motivated for work hard.
And you're right off to training camp straight after this?
Yes, I'm going to South Africa. I did my last camp in South Africa. Now I'm going back and focus for this fight and be ready.
And for you, Paige, as well, how does the next 12 months, do you think, sort of shape up?
There's definitely going to be exciting things in my life. I always have amazing opportunities coming up, but the biggest venture will be my next fight, testing free agency and kind of seeing what doors open up.
Fantastic. So we're sort of running towards the end of things. I'll just a couple of more sort of quick fire kind of questions, if that's all right. Can I ask for both of you who's sort of the toughest opponent both of you have taken on, do you think?
Toughest opponent we've had. I would say I fought a girl named Rosa Mayunas. She was the champion in the division. She's a smaller girl, and she looks very unassuming, but she hit me harder than anyone's ever hit me. So that would have been my toughest fight.
I think after I lost it, after being defeated for 13 years, and against Amanda Nunes, I think it's not just your opponent. I think yourself too. Sometimes you put some position wrong, and I think it's maybe the tough fight.
And you talked about injuries, and obviously, Paige, you had very bad arm injury and everything. Yep. How do you sort of, apart from just the physical recovery, how hard is it to mentally sort of recover from that kind of thing?
The mental, the mental edge that's just what I went through with my arm. I broke it 3 times. I've had 3 surgeries, and they were all kind of back to back. So it took me out of fighting for a very long time. And it wasn't coming back to fighting. It was the not being able to fight and not being able, like having something taken away from you when you're not ready to have it taken away is extremely hard. And it's my, my career, my livelihood. It's who I am as a person. So coming back after 3 arm injuries, it took a lot of faith, and it took a lot of, perseverance and patience. So I'm really happy with where I am now. My arm's better. I fought, and I had an amazing win in January. So I'm excited to fight again.
Cool.
Fantastic. Well, I think we're just about running out of time. So Paige and Cris, thank you ever so much. Thank you for coming, and enjoy the rest of the Web Summit. Thank you.